Isles, right? So I say that to say is that if you were watching a film of read the story of Roger Isles, his body was basically giving up on him, right? He was using a walker, he was having erectile dysfunction, right? All these things were sort of he was experiencing, and one could say, oh, it's because of his age. I'm going to say no. and, and I bring that up because I made me think of, and I posted something yesterday about what you give the body. What you give your body is what your body will give back to you. Amen. And so that could be, controversial one way or the other, but I'm going to stand on it. Amen. So, but what I would think of when I see Roger Isles, it makes me think of Matthew 16:28, right? And where it says, what does it gain a man as in humankind, right? Not just man in the traditional sense, right? But replaced with, what does it does for humankind if we gain the whole world but profit our soul? Right? And you can see that time and time and time again, right? Of course, we could think of Trump, right? We could think of other men who, over time, and men who maybe not as famous, celebrities and such, who over time, because they were willing to give their soul up for profit, for their own immediate needs, it then turns back on them. Amen. That is the yin and yang of life. Amen. And so why that is so important for us to have a connection. Last night in my cell group, my cell group leader, Yasha Jackson, talked about how, when we're under the covering, when we're under the covering of the teachings of Jesus, that we are no longer held against the law of the Old Testament of the right or wrong, or good or bad, but we're under the grace of the New Testament. Amen. We're no longer slaves, so to speak, to the law, but we're not free and mature in the grace that is God. Amen. But for that to happen, right, it helps us for us to understand it, and also helps that we have to still continually have a connection to ourselves, right? So in the Greek word for soul is suka. I hope I'm not butchering that. It's suka. And the soul under that is considered our personal preferences, our emotional responses, what we put into our spirit, right? And some have argued that the pineal gland, which is right here in our little brain, which secretes hormones like melatonin and serotonin, is the placement of our soul. That is a conversation for you to have. I'm just the messenger right now. Amen. But that, the things that helps us sleep, that helps us regulate our hormonal system, it's so connected to who we are. And that we know that stress, we know all these sort of things can have a real effect on the pineal gland, right? And we think about the decisions that we make under very stressful under circumstances can really affect our lives and can have an effect on what our soul is, right? But the spirit, which the Greek word is pneuma, the spirit is a connection to God, right? That is our spiritual connection to God. And how strong our connection is, or how broken our connection is, really reflects where our spirit is. Amen. It's a real reflection of where our spirit is. So I say this all to say is that when I think of, when in Ephesians, it says that, a man is supposed to love his wife as he loves his body, right? Again, people always talk about what the woman's supposed to do, but they never talk about what the responsibility of the men, right? Amen. But in Ephesians, it says you're supposed to honor your wife the way you will honor your body, right? Because she is literally a part of you, right? And so if we're not honoring our body, then we cannot honor our partner, right? And in the same way, if we're not connected, if our soul health is not healthy, it doesn't matter how much money we have. It doesn't matter how much success we have, because it will have no effect, because it will not be able to live in a healthy soul. And what should create joy is now creating a very toxic situation, which I will say was Fox knows. But that's my opinion, right? Amen. But I don't want us to get too off the track on that. But I just want to sort of stay track the importance of keeping that connection, keeping our spirit connection, and keeping our soul, right? The things that we want, our personal preferences, right? The the emotional responses, the things that give us pleasure, right, is that if it's all right with our soul. And I'm not so focused, because I know when people think pleasures, you know, like whether you should be drinking or doing this or doing that, that's yin yang. But you know, I think of the things that are really connected to our soul, how we're going to treat people, how we're about in the world, right? And so I wanted to bring about two people who I think of are beautiful examples of when your soul is in a healthy place. So it looks like to me, because I do not know them personally. But I think of Jennifer Hudson. I think it was like 2010 when Jennifer Hudson's mother, sister, and nephew was murdered by her sister's abusive boyfriend. And this happened in the course of an hour. And so this woman's life went from one place to another place in an hour. And I think about how she was able to even continue to walk. How was she able to talk? I don't know, but she did. And not only she taught, she continued to create into benefit. And she has contributed to causes. She sang in the Democratic National Convention. She's been very clear about her political viewpoints. And in I believe it was 2016, 17, when no, it's before that, but my dates are off. But when Spike Lee did Chirac, she did a feature cameo as a woman who was a victim of gun violence by losing her son, which I thought was an incredibly generous thing on her part, in my opinion. Amen. And I think about that. Here's someone who experienced such harshness and was able to take that and still keep her connection, because she's very vocal about having a connection to God. Amen. But that is when it means because life is sometimes very unfair. That's just, I can tell you, trust me, life can really throw you some doozies. And how you choose, which is the soul, right? How you choose your emotional reactions to things is how it will reflect on you and your body and your soul. Amen. And then I think of Addie Barkan, who is the founder of the Be Hero Pack, who as a young man, I believe was 30 years old, found out he had ALS. Which ALS is a very cruel disease. It attacks your immune system, it attacks your muscular system, and your body begins to shut down over time. Right now he is at 35 or 36 years old, he can't speak, he can't move his body. But in that time, he has built a coalition that protested against Brett Kavanaugh, that spoke out against the signing of the tax bill. His coalition has a PAC which supports progressive candidates. And he did this because he used his body, what was happening to him, as a symbol that he was very clear in saying if he didn't have the health care he did, he couldn't get the care he did. He couldn't do what he needed to do. Again, he's a Jewish man. He's not a Christian man. But I would say that someone whose soul is intact. Amen. So I just suffice this to say, this video is just about the importance of again, it is not so much of what life hands us, which can be very cruel, but what we do with what life hands us will affect our soul and our spirit and our mind. Amen. All right, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful 4th. Prayer chat will be next week. Mwah. Bye.